Hey there, Yoga Biz champs. Michael J here, and I've got a super juicy episode for you today, especially if you've ever found yourself wrestling with the decision to shift your teaching team from contractors to employees. Yes. My guest is the wonderful Rebecca Sebastian, founder of workinginyoga.com and owner of Sunlight Yoga Apothecary. Rebecca wears both hats, industry advocate and studio owner, so she knows firsthand what it's like to balance fair pay, great community vibes, and the realities of running a profitable studio. In our chat today, we dig into the nuts and bolts of setting up an amazing teacher experience while keeping your own sanity intact. If you're looking to take your studio to the next level with ethical employment practices, real-world tips on leadership, this one's for you. So grab your favorite cup of tea, British Yorkshire tea here, by the way, and let's dive in. You're about to learn a ton about running a yoga business that truly works for you, your teachers, and the community you serve. Let's get started. Hey, I'm so excited to meet you. I'm one of those last-minute crammers.
Me too. I'm so with you.
So I just spent like the last 30 minutes going through your website, reading all you're about, like all the reading your bio and all of that stuff. Yeah. And I'm excited to meet you. First of all, Shannon Crow recommended, she's like, you guys have to connect. And so anything Shannon says, I trust.
Me too.
And so I'm really excited to meet you. And we have a lot of commonalities. Got a podcast, do some coaching, yoga teachers. I own a studio, you own a studio. And you gave me your bio. And I'm wondering if you want me to read your bio or if you want to read what ChatGPT told me about you.
Oh my God. Totally ChatGPT. I have no idea. That's terrifying. Because it totally could be like,
well, they need some reputation management.
She's funny.
All right, let's go. Who is Rebecca Sebastian? Founder of Working in Yoga, Rebecca Sebastian is known for launching and developing workinginyoga.com. This platform focuses on fostering meaningful conversations about the yoga industry, particularly emphasizing labor practices, pay equity, and the business side of being a yoga professional. How are we doing so far? Oh, I can't.
Fancy? Okay.
Okay, good. Industry advocate. She often discusses the gaps within the yoga industry, such as fair compensation, encouraging transparent pay structures and sustainable career options for yoga teachers, professional development, offering resources and guidance for yoga professionals who need support and employment, career progression, and community building, and workplace challenges highlighting issues that yoga teachers and studio owners face, including burnout, business practices, and ethics. Speaker educator, online community building, blah, blah, blah.
Fancy right now? Is ChatGPT flirting with me? I think yes. Yes, I will go for ice cream with you.
What it didn't do, and I think because I gave it your Working in Yoga website, it didn't say anything about your studio and all the other stuff. And so I'd love to hear from you. We don't really know much about each other, which I love because it's always like having coffee for the first time with me. Which is my favorite way to go. And by the way, you have a beautiful smile.
Thank you.
All right. So I'd love to know kind of what was your journey? You know, I always want to know that, first of all, the spark, the yoga spark. What was that thing? You know, I got to get me some more of that. And then I'd love to know kind of your kind of journey to studio ownership and the platforms that you're on right now.
Yeah, of course. So I started in yoga. So I was born with hip dysplasia. Which essentially is for most women a lifetime of chronic pain. By 19, I had awful chronic pain, and a doctor had said to me, you're going to have your hip replaced before 40. And that's just what your journey will be. It will be chronic pain till you can't stand it anymore, and then you'll get your hip replaced. And this was the 90s, right? I'm 46. I always like to own my age. And a friend of mine just said, hey, have you ever heard of yoga? You should try it. And she went with me to a class. And after 4 or 5 classes, I didn't have hip pain anymore, which was like the first part of my like yoga experience. So then, I was young, I was 19 and very dedicated. And I also started to realize that I was like a nicer person because I did yoga. You know what I
Wow,
mean?
that byproduct, hey?
I know, because like some people are so gentle and sweet by nature. My friend who brought me to yoga the first time, just like the most gentle human. I'm not that. That has never been me. I have a quick tongue and a quick wit and like like sharp judgment real quickly. And I was like, wow, this just has made me nicer to people and it's made me more excited to be around people. It made it easier for me to like have connections and friendships. And so by then I was like hooked. And this is, oh my God, this is such a like 90s yoga story. My teacher
I was
came to me
there.
and said, yeah, like she just like when we were all new and she just came and she said, it's time for you to train. Can you imagine? Like,
My teacher, the same
and then,
thing. Michael,
yeah,
shut up, stop asking me questions and take the teacher training.
yes, it's time for you to train. And I just went, okay, because
Yeah,
I
similar
have people
story.
pleasery tendencies. And I was like, absolutely, whatever you say. And somehow became, yeah, a yoga teacher from there.
Yeah.
Because I came to yoga for healing and not for fitness, right? So 90s, early 2000s. I always had a very different perspective on why I was at yoga than a lot of people who came to yoga in the like heavy fitness phase of our like
Yeah.
industry, you
Well,
know?
I think the 90s, I actually think it was a fantastic time for yoga. It was for me, that was where I came into yoga, and I'm in Vancouver, Canada. And it was community studios, and we had one website. It was I don't know if you know Ian Finn, but it was his website that's
Yeah.
still there, vancouveryoga.com, and it was where everybody got, like, I went to it multiple times today to see what the next Shiva Ray was coming to town, or some. There was always
Yeah.
a guest speaker, guest teacher coming, but it was the community studios. And when we went to those events with the guest teachers, Donna Fari and all these amazing people that traveled at that time, the city came together, or the town, like
Mhm.
the area came together at the
That.
teachers. And so I feel that was pre the franchise type business model. Right. So it sounds like we kind of have a similar vibe. My original
Yep.
teaching
Yep.
was in the basement. My main teacher, Joya Owen, was it was all the teachers that are teachers now. And we were in her dirty basement with gross props, and it didn't matter. And we paid. We paid for a
Yes.
season.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, we were all there. Like the place I went to was on the third floor of a building that was like 170 years old. It truly was literally like 56 stairs to get to the
Yeah.
very top. Swear to God, there was a cat there. Nobody knew who that cat belonged to. It was just there. Like like that was
Yeah. It was a
what
moment.
it was. The counterculture wave. Like I was just on Jay Brown Yoga Talks podcast recently. Jay and I were talking about how like the 90s were so counterculture and a lot of us that
Yeah.
started then loved that energy.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of teachers are neurodivergent, ADHD, and I feel like if it also it it fed something for us, or does
Yeah.
anyway too. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's
Yeah.
where a lot of neurodivergent people are drawn to this
Uh,
practice. Yeah,
Folks who had a lot of trauma too that
yeah,
came into the spaces. That's something that I always feel like we don't talk about enough is that there's like such a high percentage of those of us who had like traumatic experiences who came, like that's the part when I came out and I was like, oh, I'm a nicer person because I actually believe in humanity again.
yeah,
Like
yeah. It's big.
it's huge.
Yeah,
I also didn't know I needed that at like 22. I had
yeah.
no clue that that was what was really
Mirror
going to
moment,
be.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what took you? So you then you became a teacher,
Yeah. Yes. And
and
then
the path.
so I became a teacher. I'd been teaching for many years. I got married, I had a child, and my first husband left our marriage. So I was a single mom with a baby. and I had to figure out how to pay my bills, to work on a schedule that was mine. And at that point, I was like, well, the only thing I know how to do is this yoga thing that I'm good at.
Yeah.
And so I went to be trained as a yoga therapist in 2010 before it was ever a thing. There was no credential or anything.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I've done the training. I do not have the certification.
And like, I was like, okay. But in my head, I was going to run books like a massage therapist does. Like they have, a 10 o'clock, an 11 o'clock, a 12 o'clock. And I was like, if I could do that for yoga, that's a sustainable living. Like it was very pragmatic. I just needed to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And this was a skill set that I had. And I wanted to figure out how to leverage the skills I had to feed my kid.
Yeah.
And so I trained to be a yoga therapist. Life happened. I had another child. I'm still single parent. And like at some point in 2017, 18, I was teaching as a yoga therapist out of an Iyengar studio. And I was looking around going, this isn't me. Yeah. And this isn't what I want to offer the world. Like I was really conscious in like 2016, 17, 18 time that yoga acts like they've done you a favor by letting you in the door. Like you're laughing because it's so true, right? Like you walk into a studio and they're like, aren't you lucky I've let you come? And I went, that just wasn't me. And that wasn't what I wanted to build. So when that studio that I was at, my anchor studio, moved locations and had to consolidate 2 rooms into 1, I couldn't work as a yoga therapist quite so easily. So I was just like, this is my sign. I'm going to build something different. Yep. So I started my studio. 6 months before COVID, I opened. Here we are.
So tell me a little bit about your studio. I mean, your beautiful website. I love the image on the front page. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Tell me about your studio and this community that you've created, and how have you done it different?
For me, it's interesting you're asking me this because I'm right now in a business expansion program because I want to drop a second location and buy a building, and I have I want to shift my model a little bit. So, but for me, it's always been wellness equals community. So like my first focus has always been on building a community of humans that want to be together.
Yeah.
And we just happen to do yoga together. And that happens to be really fundamentally life-changing.
Yeah.
But what gets me up in the morning is like the community that I built.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, you gave birth to this community. I mean, when I sold that, my community, after 13 years, I sold it. It's just, it has to go on to the right caretaker afterwards. Here it is, I think 22 years later, it's still in existence on its 3rd owner. And I think of that as a legacy, right? That it's still there and survived COVID.
Which was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So, beautiful. And so, love to talk a little bit about. So, can you just tell me about how you feel it's different, like how you serve differently?
Yeah. The first thing is that I'm very clear we're a very welcoming and open and inviting space. Like part of my business right now, about 85% of my business is a yoga studio. 15% is a tea and spice shop that's attached to it, and so. We coordinate those together. Every yoga class, we brew a pot of tea, we serve you tea, and we're here to come and be a collective. And we move and we breathe. We're not very fitness oriented. Some of my teachers are a little more fitness oriented.
Yeah.
But we're definitely focusing on, if we want to use sciencey terms versus yoga terms, we're focusing on nervous system down regulation. We're focusing on the self-care aspect of it. We're focusing on that place where people can come and go, thank God I'm here.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't care what I don't care if your left heel lines up with your right heel. I care that you leave feeling better than you walked in.
Yeah. It's funny because I understand there is a desire in the marketplace for those sorts of places that are very rigid like structure wise and it's fitness and whether the alignment space is right. Like I understand there's a desire for that. I want nothing to do with that. I love that for someone else.
And so that's important, right? When you're running a studio or any type of business, I think is really knowing your mission, your vision, your values, and everything is in alignment with that. I mean, to me, that's where you create an amazing culture. And we also have, it's a powerful space. It's community in the space, but for me, it was we created community in the community as well. And you're a big advocate, and so you're an advocate for teachers, and you also are a studio owner that has to pay teachers. Yeah. And every single day I work with the yoga studio owners, whether they're starting a studio or growing a studio, and it's one of the biggest angst for studio owners there's a real kind of, I'm contract. I'm going to, right now it feels like I'm going to be a contractor as long as I can. But at the same time, if I'm a contractor, I can't ask for any expectations. And then there's the fear of all the extra payroll taxes and expenses. Can I afford to go that way? So this is what I hear on a very daily basis, right? And it's real. And I feel like people listening to this right now are probably going to really relate to this. So, because I think COVID taught us a lot about how teachers had nothing.
Yes.
Like literally nothing. So I'd love to know, as a studio owner and as an advocate, I'd love you to kind of, how do you ride that line?
I will say, I think for a whole lot of reasons, I'm not an advocate for contractors. And I love you, and I know I hear studio owners, and I love you so much, and we're building these things for the world, and I know we have overhead and we have payroll, and it's all very scary. For a lot of reasons, I want people to consider shifting your mindset to something different. Number one is when you have employees, you can hire for very specific things, and they have to do very specific things in order to represent your business well to your community. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and those things that you thought were going to be important for the teachers who came into your studio space are probably not nearly as important as you thought. Like when I first started, I thought I'm going to hire the best teachers, and I'm going to, the most experienced people. And wow, was that incorrect? I mean,
get a few divas there.
There's a lot of diva culture within the industry, but also if what I'm building is a space for community and a space where people can feel welcome, I hire for that. And I coach for the teaching. Like you can come in and you have access to me and coaching, like to be the best possible yoga teacher you can. I've taught 18,000 plus hours of yoga classes.
I mean, that's all you have control of is the customer experience.
Yep.
Right. That's it. There's nothing else. Yeah. And if you can, your job becomes making them the best teachers that they can be. Because every student, every teacher wants a busy class and that vibe.
Yes. That
feeling.
I think, and you think that you're going to hire people who are going to bring people into your studio. Oh, babes, don't hire for that. I love you. Don't hire for that. Remember when that's your job.
Real talk. Hashtag real talk.
like I love you so much. But first of all, bring people into your studio is your job as the owner. That's not a teacher's job. A teacher is to deliver the most high quality on brand, if you want to say that, class they possibly can. And let them be so good at their job. Like, let them be so good. This is a phrase I always say. Have them be so good their work is undeniable. Like, nobody questions who's on my team because I have the best team in town and I know it. Like, people come in and they're like, I can't get a bad class here.
Yeah.
And the amount of people who I hired who are first time out the gate teachers, who are teachers who are very much like, I got trained 3 years ago and I've never taught in person. I only taught on COVID. I don't know if I can do this. Like, and I just coach them, but I hired them because they're warm, welcoming, community-oriented individuals. Like, that's what I'm hiring for. I think studio owners hire for the wrong things.
I just got goosebumps. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love that, because I've said on my podcast a lot of times, the first when I started my studio, it was way over 50% allaboutme.com. Like, I was known in the town. I had most classes. I kept my payroll down by doing that. But as I grew my community to be a beautiful, profitable, amazing space, I was able to back off to teach just the classes that lit me up, which was probably 5, and really love those and not feel burnt out and my body not feeling bad from over teaching. And then I shifted my focus to empowering my team. And that's when everything changed.
Oh, it's magic.
Can you talk about the time you put into it? I really want people to know, how much time do you put into this and the structure around it? Like, and also I want to know, when something goes off, as human beings do, how do you course correct quickly?
Okay, so the time I spent into being a good leader, like I invested a lot of I feel like being a good leader of your studio is first, it's like being a good parent. And that's learning to manage yourself and your emotions first, and then figuring out how to manage other people. Like, the biggest employee that you have to manage is you. Yeah. Like, you get so deep into, how do you typically lead? How are you a reactive leader? Are you somebody who like goes at a snail's pace because you're afraid of making a mistake? Like, be really honest with how you are with other people first.
And then it's okay to be a leader, and it's okay. Like, I have to.
You have no choice.
But there's a lot of people do shy away from being a leader, especially yoga teachers that have now realized, holy shit, I'm in a business, and it's a human business. I've got to deal with these human students and their problems, and I've got to deal with my teachers, which are humans and have flaws too. So yeah.
I mean, you've got to, I feel like learning how to sort yourself out first is like so key, because there's always going to be like that email that comes at you. This happened to me actually this week, right? My team member, she and I are very close, and she sent me this email, and it was kind of bitey, and it was a little bit like this, and this kind of thing. And I had to pause, like, because now I know myself well enough to go, okay, so I was raised in a household of people who like to fight. So like, somebody comes at me with harsh words, I'm like, game on, let's play. And then went, no, that's not how I want to respond. I love this human. I love that she works for me. She's having a hard time. So I went and I said, okay, this was written by somebody who feels like this, I'm guessing. What's my outcome? What do I want to happen here when I'm responding to that team member? Well, gosh, I really don't want her to leave because she brings so much value to the team. How can I respond in a way that says, here's my clear boundaries, here's what I need to have happen, and here's what I want to happen from this conversation.
Yeah.
But my ability to do that is checking me first before I respond.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Take
key.
a beat.
Take a beat. Yes, I say that too.
So we got way off track from pay structure. With ADHD here, it's like
I'm back. Pay structure. We're gonna dial it back to pay structure.
But I love
you.
The
pay your teachers. Pay your teachers flat fees, please, and thank you. Just, you have to know how much your payroll is going to be. You've got to know how much.
Predictability, because they always feel like, I feel like I've got to compensate, and but then I feel like then they've got to. I'm doing it per head, but they're not putting the extra work into trying to get people in. Like, it's your job, right, as a studio owner, to get people in. Let's be clear about that.
Yes.
It's their job to teach.
They're not marketing for you. They're not getting people in the door for you. They're teaching a really good class. You're hiring them because they can teach a really good class. You're not hiring them because they can sell. You're not hiring them because they like mop the floors really well. Like, you're hiring them to teach a yoga class. Hire them, pay them for that job, pay them flat. Be honest about what you can afford. Like, because most teachers have big hearts, and they'll work with you. If you're like, hey, I'm changing the pay structure, it's got to be this amount, but here's my plan to increase it over time.
Yeah. So with the expectations, with payroll, you're able to say, do you have goals associated with expectations, or is it mostly kind of how I expect you to be with the people and the customer experience?
Okay, so I am really nerdy about this. Are you ready?
Please.
So like, the first thing I think a lot of us do when we really are into the customer experience is like, I have this whole board of a customer experience. And then I went back and I said, I need an employee experience board. I need to figure out over time what I want my employees to be doing, what milestones I want them to hit, what things I want them to be doing consistently. And then just like with my customer experience, where I was like, oh, so if you come to 100 classes, you get this. Or if you shout us out and give us a Google review, you get this. I did the same thing with my employees. Like, here's the experience I want them to be having. I want them by, let's say you're here, 2 years. By 2 years, I want you to be able to like do these particular things. By 6 months, I want you to be able to do these particular things.
Yeah.
Like I built an experience for my team.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I built into my employee experience is mentoring new people who come through.
Lovely. So almost like old school apprenticeships, which I actually did under my teacher, which was the scariest time of ever.
Yeah.
but having that mentorship and that guidance, I think with my 1 year apprenticeship that I did, it made me into a great teacher.
Yeah.
I feel like after that year, I could teach any type of anybody.
Yep.
Any class. I could, because it's about seeing. Right.
It's about seeing. And I think that's the same thing for our employees. And also, they deserve as much attention as our clients get because they're helping run our business. So I was like, gosh, these people are so valuable to me. I'm certainly not going to teach 22 classes a week. I had a day where I did that. No more. No, thank you. I teach one.
Yeah. Good to go through it. It's good to go through it because then you have empathy and understanding for your teachers too, right?
Yeah. But I thought, I'm never going to run a business without these humans coming through the door. They deserve from me what my clients get from me.
Yeah. Your studio, I always say this, your studio is only as good as your teachers. End of.
It's true. And I never wanted to build that diva space. Like you alluded to, like the divas.
Yeah.
Like, I am not the one for you. Like the first thing, if you email me a pitch that's like, I am such and such a teacher, and this is how many people I'm going to bring to your space. I have never read more of a red flag email than when I get those emails. Immediately, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. I always say a good onboarding is important, but a good gut instinct. It's more important.
Yeah.
And I have many times when I had the studio where I didn't listen to my gut instinct, and they were the worst.
Yeah.
The worst.
Yes.
They're terrible. They weren't in alignment. So we're going all over the place here, which is great. But so they're on payroll, but there's you're empowering them to be better teachers, but along that there's expectations. So I always say to my studio owners, firm and fair. I want my studio owners, quite often it takes a while for them to be able to stand on their own two bare feet in a studio and say, this is mine. This is what space I created. And it's okay to ask for people to be in alignment and to up level the experience to what we want it to be. So anyway, any thoughts on?
When you're saying that, I have in the past had teachers that have challenged. As you're talking, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad my team's not like that now. Like,
Yeah.
it's just magic. Okay, my favorite story of my team recently is I just finished training a cohort of yoga teachers. And so I emailed my team after it was done and I said, hey, you don't have to do this, but this is what I want to provide for these new trainees coming into the industry. I want to do a clap in. So like we have all day and then they'll break for lunch. And then when they come back, we'll all clap them in and welcome to the industry and y'all can give them advice.
Love it.
And when I tell you every single teacher from my studio, but one person who was sick came and clapped these new teachers in.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's
and you ask them to show up, they show up because they want to, not because they're
yeah.
That's can we go back a little bit? Mission, vision, values. Is that important to your business? And when I start working with a new studio or someone that's trying to put a structure in, I go back to that. And that has to be, for me, upfront in the onboarding process. And that has to be, and for me, the way that I do things is we go over the onboarding document as a conversation, see if we're in alignment. And then if it's a new studio, I come in and we train all the teachers together. But I think that initial onboarding and saying, this is what we expect, are firm and fair expectations.
You good?
But for me, that gives you a chance to, when it goes off, which it does, to quickly course correct to something. Hey, we had this discussion.
Yeah, I think if, like you said, I like that firm and fair kind of onboarding. I like that. And I think if you operate in that way, and over time you get used to being able to speak with confidence without feeling like it gets you're nervous at first. I was nervous at first. This is what I want. This is what I need. But now no one questions.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're all so much in this together of like everybody's here to make this space for thrive and to help the people who come and see us thrive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed when I was doing my little research is you really talk a lot about preventing burnout and building community. And I can't tell you, I mean, I meet yoga studio owners all day long. And there are some days that we show up and we cry together, or they're just in overwhelm, or they come and they say, I was kind of in an accident and something happened a week ago and it's knocked me off for a week. And I know in my, kind of emotional, when I get to a point where I'm like, it's everything too much, I can go into shutdown, and I have to kind of allow myself to go through that sometimes, feel it, and come out better on the other side. But when we're running these businesses that are somewhat, I don't want to say machine, but, rent has to be paid, payroll has to be, marketing has to happen. We have to promote and sales and all of that kind of stuff that goes along with all the roles. How do you help people keep things ticking while allowing yourself the grace to go down?
This is a really good question. And I think the first thing I want to say is that we have to acknowledge that we're in a very interesting and unique space, because wellness is our business. So our own wellness feels like a second job. Excuse me. And that becomes complicated, because yoga is the process of using the discipline and practice of yoga to transform ourselves and our lives for the better. Being a business owner requires you to transform yourself for the better. So you almost can't get away from self-transformation when you're a business owner who also does yoga, because it is, and it's like, when am I ever allowed to eat chips and scroll TikTok? Because every freaking thing in my life is asking me to unpack something I have in order to be better. So I feel like it's really important that we tell yoga business owners, wellness business owners, to do something outside wellness that fills your cup. You have to be able to get away from it. You have to. I know it is an unpopular opinion. I love you. I love yoga so much. It's been my life for so long. I need you to do something that's not yoga.
I'm so with you on that. Like, even physically, I always say yoga is not the be all end all. No. We need a lot of strength. We need cardio. There's just other things we need, but we also need respite.
Yes, you need cake. You need to feel like you've got.
Don't you think that the yoga studio or the studio owner is held a little bit on a pedestal?
Yes.
Because when I owned my yoga studio, it was in a true community. So when I walked my dog around the community, everybody knew my dog's name and had treats for him. But also meant that when I went to the grocery store, they looked in my basket and said, "Oh, I didn't know you eat cookies and you eat." I'm like, real, raw, human, flawed.
Yes. We have to push back against that. And we have to talk about it amongst ourselves because there's so much guilt and shame that happens especially when you're the business owner, of things like, I haven't practiced in 6 months, which is real talk that happens to all of us.
Yeah.
Or, oh my God, I don't want to do anything related to yoga because I just spent 15 hours fixing a water problem in my yoga studio.
Yeah.
And that is okay. Your self-care and your wellness has to exist outside your business. And if your business is yoga, that means your self-care to some degree has to exist outside yoga.
Give an example of something outside of yoga. What would you?
Okay. So I have a whole lot of content around this spectrum. But essentially, what I would tell you to do is create a menu of things that help regulate your nervous system and go through. And maybe that's petting your dog or taking a walk or dancing in the kitchen or eating cake and scrolling TikTok, because I'm not a shame person. Maybe that's seeking out pleasure activities. Maybe that is, going for a wine with a girlfriend. Maybe that is, do things that remind you that you as a human exist and matter outside your business. Because I think we have the work-life balance characterization incorrect. Your work and your life exist on one side of the scale, and you as a human, as a person who has value and worth, exist on the other side of the scale. Your work and your life are just things you do. And you have to value yourself as a human enough to say that you get one whole side of the scale, and then what you produce for the world is this whole other thing. And work and life are both capitalism, and capitalism has tricked you into believing that the only thing that matters is what you produce and do for the world. It's not. Yoga has taught us something else. So go be as a human and do things that fill your cup.
Yeah, go paint, go something.
Yes, take a hike.
Yeah, and in the business side of things, I always say triple down on the superpowers and the things that feed you and nurture you, that you love, that you are good at. If it's marketing and social media, go all in. If it's not, hire someone that loves doing that.
Yeah. Yes.
How did you come to that time? Did you start with a team? Or was it all about you.com and then organically grew into a team? And
yes.
Can you tell me a little bit what your structure looks like now?
Sure. So the things that I'm good at, I keep. As I'm shifting and building my business model in a different way now, I'm actually restructuring it. I did, I'm sure you've told people the classic thing of here are all the things I do in a week. And then I gave each of them a grade, A, B, C, D, E, F, how good am I at all of those things? What things do I want to keep? Yeah. What things do I need to offload? This classic business stuff, right?
Yeah. But important.
But really important.
Yeah, document what you do in a week and see all the little damn emails you respond to and distractions. And if you have somebody else, for example, if
there's a difficult client, which I generally don't market to those humans. Like I'm not looking for difficult people. There are people who are looking for that white glove, high-end experience for their clients. I am not the one, and today is literally never the day. Like there's never a moment where you're giving me a high maintenance request that I'm receptive to that. So I hire people who will tolerate somebody being like, I know this is so fussy, but sometimes when somebody flushes the toilet in the bathroom, it's a little bit loud. If they're, you know what I mean? Like, because I am going to say curse words and then they're not going to. I'm going to be like, are you effing serious, Sharon? Like, stop. So I have other people who do that for me.
Right.
And
Do
I
better.
just want to have a neutral face and just.
Well, do you also think in that the correspondence with clients around things like payments or contract, those things, sometimes I feel like it's a little bit nicer to separate studio owner / teacher from somebody that sometimes have to have those uphold policy sometimes. So I had a person called Lisa for the longest time that, Lisa was front desk for me. Lisa left. She got pregnant and left, but I kept Lisa's email.
Yeah.
Lisa upheld all conversations regarding policy.
Yeah. I think that's great. Mutual friend Shannon and I were like, we could share an email of just like a fake name with the person who's got to be the heavy in the business.
Yeah. Actually, front desk app.
Yes. I have somebody in my business who does those things, and she just doesn't mind. She's like, it's very straightforward. I don't mind any of those kinds of things. I also think like the payment reminders and things like if somebody's membership doesn't go through, so take advantage of your software and their automatic replies to that.
Yeah. Can we geek out for a second on software? Because I did notice, I do my research, you're on Moments, and I'm guessing you probably were not on Moments when you opened, were you?
No, I was not. I went from a very tiny software called KarmaSoft, which was great for the time. It was not robust. I don't even know if they're still around. I'm sorry, Rudy, if you are still around. I don't know if they're still around. It was very small, but it worked for me in the beginning. And then I switched to one of the behemoths. I switched to Wellness Living. One of the things that I didn't like with Wellness Living, and there's like a whole laundry list. A lot of people have drama with these like big companies, your Mind Body or Wellness Living, right? One of the things I learned with that switch is how robust a software can be, like all of the things that it could do for you. So I actually was grateful.
So franchise level communications for a community studio.
Yeah, that was
based
really
on data,
to me.
Based on data, things going based on how people attend or what purchase, based on pure data.
Yes, and that blew me away. I didn't even know we could do that, or I could automate those kind of things, So, but Wellness Living for a very long time was a holdout of not integrating into a major payment processor. So they never integrated into Stripe or Square or anything like that. And to me, I was like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that, you're on the super tiny credit card payment processor that doesn't show me data, that doesn't have a dashboard or anything like that. And so I got off them because they wouldn't integrate to Stripe, and I was using other softwares that integrated to Stripe. So I really wanted everything to integrate into one credit card processor, right? Because my online studio was doing something else and all these other things. I need most of my stuff in one place. So then I found Moments. Moments was kind of like the best of all worlds. I was able to integrate the online studio seamlessly into Moments. I was able to, they were doing almost everything that Wellness Living was doing at the time that Moments just got bought. I don't know if you know this, but they just got bought.
I just saw that. Yeah.
But at the time it felt very mom and pop the way that my first software was. So it kind of seemed like I was willing to give them space to grow because I knew that the communication was really nice at the time and we had a lot of input as to what was happening.
Come on, all the boys are good looking that work for Moments. Come on, let's be real. They don't hire anybody that is ugly.
That's true. That's really true. And they had like this brilliant marketing. Do you know about the pineapples?
The pineapple, yes. But tell it, because some people might not know it.
So they would like send pineapples to yoga studios as like a way to be like, hey, so we're going to switch it up a little bit, right? And I've said this to so many yoga studio owners because it's a play off of like being swingers, right?
Yeah.
Pineapples.
Yeah.
It's like a swinger play.
Yeah.
But so many people don't get that reference. And I'm always like, I need you guys to know what pineapples mean so that you don't go out in the world.
And do you know how many yoga studios are posting pictures of pineapple in the studio? I mean, it was the best marketing campaign for Moments, really. And that was really when they're right at the, kind of at the beginning time, I think, when we were all meeting with the owners of the company at the time, I think.
Yeah, Matteo.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, you have those tools now that can, so those, do they help you with your goals with your studio?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of add-ons, like Moments is really clever with leads
and the marketing and the Facebook add-ons. Yeah.
And if you're willing to learn it, it's like adding another person to your team that's just your software, but you have to be willing to learn. Like I know some yoga folks especially are really hesitant towards tech, but it's here and it's never going away. Please just take advantage of it where you can, like learn the hard thing.
Yeah.
So that it works for you.
I always say, quite often I'm teaching my studio owners to go learn about how to do a Facebook ad. Like you can either go pay an agency to do it, which is a great way to do it if you've got the funds for that, or you can go to school and learn how to use the tools and maximize what you've got. And I always say that investments in coaches, software, people should all have some type of return.
Yes. Don't, I mean, this is probably a whole entire other podcast about how people will find that certification or that next investment in like a school or a learning or a coach or whatever, and not think, how am I ever going to get my money back from this?
Spreadsheet.
Please do a spreadsheet to manage your emotions. That's my number one tip for people's mental health, because your emotions, your feelings are liars. And it's so emotional when you run a business, right? Like I still 6 years in, actually fairly consistently will walk into my business and be like, I'm failing. I should shut down. This is awful. I'm not doing a good job. And then I'll dig into a spreadsheet that will give me numbers that tell me that I'm just having a bad day.
Yeah. The numbers don't lie.
So useful. Yeah.
If they're done right.
Yeah. Numbers aren't trying to hurt my feelings. Like,
it has been such a pleasure meeting you today. It's been such a nice surprise, and I just have loved the conversations, and I love what you're doing to empower other people in this world to just do better. And I love that you're, lobbying and all about the ethics, and so I really appreciate that you're out there and a voice doing this. Got a few final questions. So while we're on tech, let's go with your favorite business tool, website, or app.
If Shannon's listening, she'll know. I love Trello so much.
Me too. She actually, I've hired her as a coach for my podcast, so she's helping me. She's made automations like.
You could seduce me with a good Trello board, and I'm not even kidding you. Like sometimes somebody was like, what are your dating expectations? And I was like, Trello.
I know. I think she set it up so that my to-do today empties at the end of every day. It literally goes back to do this week.
Oh, so good.
So every morning I have to manually drag over what I'm going to do that day. It just like bottoms out the things I didn't get accomplished.
Oh, that's so smart. God, she's clever. Yeah, Trello is my favorite app. A nice looking Trello board, I mean, is
Yeah.
chef's
So
kiss.
I actually work all of everybody that comes in my starter studio or grow studio package. We work on a project board together through the 6 months. And
Nice.
so in my CRM, which is my project management kind of space for my clients, I do it either on Trello or in there. It comes with the package, but we have a very simple system that my business coach helped me, who's a project manager in the tech world. And it's so simple, it works for my brain. One column for to do eventually. Idea dump.
Yeah.
Get it out. Just dump it in
Yeah.
there. To do in the next 2 weeks. Actionable.
Oof, nice.
To do this week. So you have to look at your Sunday or your Monday and what's in your to-do this week. You put it on your calendar. Your color-coded, beautiful calendar.
Yes. Yes.
You put the
Yes.
time in to go to work for that.
Wow.
And then
I
we
love
have to
that.
do today, which bottoms out at the end of the day if we didn't do it. And then we have done.
Ah,
It's such
that
a
is so
it's such a
satisfying.
nice simple system. It works for me. It works
Yeah.
for every studio that I work with. And
Yeah.
then, at the end of every time we meet, there's tasks to do. And so then every
Yeah.
week we meet to the tasks. And so
Yeah.
shit gets done.
Yes.
But yeah, good
Trello, we
Trello
love
board.
you.
Trello.
Ugh.
No affiliate links here.
Would be my dream. I mean, I would probably be on my floor for a day if I ever got a Trello affiliate link. Oh, I'd feel so cool.
What's your go-to website or app for fun? I've heard you say TikTok like 4 times.
Which is funny because I actually don't go to TikTok, but I understand the compulsive nature of people who are
the
TikTok
escapism.
people. Yes, yes, I do. My go-to app or website for fun.
What's your distraction? What draws you in? Escapism.
Puzzles. So I will
Okay,
definitely,
yeah.
like, I'll do like and I mean like word puzzles. So like the New York
Quite a
Times
few
like puzzle
studio owners
section.
say that.
Yeah. I like that game. So when I have time to do it, yeah. I'm really good at Sudoku. Like really, really good at it.
Not just a little. Not just a little.
So,
this is her
mildly
superpower,
competitive.
folks.
Yeah.
Something most people wouldn't know about you.
Something most people wouldn't know about me. That's a good question. Okay, I've got 2. One is that I've met 2 of the 4 Beatles. That's always my like itchy little thing. Because he used to live in
50%.
London and 50% of the Beatles used to live in London. My landlord was a personal friend of Paul McCartney's. So I met Paul McCartney in the early 2000s.
Cool.
And I met George Harrison before he died at the Vatican by random chance of us both being there at 6 a.m. I know, random.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll say that. Yeah, that's my answer.
If you were a yoga pose, which would you be and why?
Does anybody say anything other than Shavasana?
Yeah, half moon a lot.
Really? I do love that yoga pose, but I mean, Shavasana, because for obvious reasons, you're laying around on the floor and there's blankets and pillows and feels like a warm and welcoming place to be.
Yeah. Rebecca, so nice to meet you. How do people find you? You have 2 websites and some Instagrams and a podcast. So tell everybody where to find you.
So my podcast is Working in Yoga. And as you said, labor rights, how we work is a unique kink of mine. I could talk about that for a really long time. Podcast website, workinginyoga.com. The Instagram that's attached to that is just my name, Rebecca Sebastian Yoga, and that's my Instagram through that. And my studio is Sunlight Yoga and Apothecary. My website is thesunlightexperience.com because I care about our experiences very deeply. And Sunlight Yoga Apothecary on Instagram.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That'll all be in the show notes, by the way, folks. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you. This is fun.
Thanks for tuning in, champs. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to this channel. It means a lot. And if you're ready to open your own studio or grow your current one, visit yogabizchamp.link/YouTube to book your free strategy call with myself and explore my starter studio and grower studio packages. And you'll also get access to all of my free Yoga Biz Champ resources, yogabizchamp.link/YouTube. And you can check out other insights and follow me on all social media platforms at Yoga Biz Champ. See you next time.